What's up, my friends? Welcome to This Week in Pinstripes, the show where we look at Yankees baseball plus or minus 7 days at a time through stats, highlights, research, really anything that I find interesting and think you might too. Let's get after it. I wanted to lead off here with some Boone quotes from last night. Obviously, brutal loss to the Red Sox. Booney, these comments I saw get a little bit of flack on social media. It felt like it was kind of mixed. Here, we'll play them for context.
And you gotta that's what the grind is. We got a really good freaking team. You know, we played crappy on this trip, kind of feels bad, kind of pissed off, right? But it's what we do. It's what you sign up for. We'll dig ourselves out of it and get it going here in short order. But we just, bottom line is we didn't play well this weekend, and we gotta do better.
Yeah, I don't see any problem whatsoever with those comments. I have been critical of Boone's communication style in the past. I have been critical of Boone for not acknowledging basic realities about the team, we'll call them, and trying to consistently push for these more comfortable narratives about certain players. Obviously, the most obvious one is Volpe. Like, we don't have to talk around it. It's so annoying that I feel like every conversation about the Yankees has to in some way involve Volpe right now, because it is such a disconnect between the fan base and the organization. And there's a spectrum of opinions on Volpe. I like to think I'm in the fairly reasonable camp of, hey, he's got to show me something, man. Like, I haven't seen it. We'll talk about Volpe. I've got stuff about him in a little bit, but I think for Booney, like, this is not bad. This is what I'd want to hear. This is if we had a, rough and tumble hard ass manager who was coming out and saying, like, this week is unacceptable and these guys need to get their, like, that would all just be blustery. And like, I would rather have this. I would rather have, hey man, go look it up. Every good team has a 2-5 stretch, has a 2-5 week at some point during the season. The goal here, the actual intention is, let's not have it continue. Let's stop it. We got the AL Central this week. Historically, that's been good to us. I don't feel bad or negative or terrible about this team right now. There are obvious flaws, but when you look around the AL, I got the standings here, like, I think it's pretty clear that our main op is just Tampa Bay. The rest of the AL is not in a very good place. And I know I've been hearing a little bit of buzz around Seattle. I'd be lying to you if I said that I've dived into their numbers at all, but like, I know that they have the really deep pitching staff. I'd say that would be kind of my one, if I'm looking around the AL and saying, who has the starting pitching depth to really compete with the Yankees? I think Seattle's the first name out of most people's mouths. But you look at the AL. Obviously, if Toronto gets really hot, they've owned us for the last year and a half, probably more than that. But at this stage, it just feels like when I look around the AL, the Yankees are clearly the highest ceiling team. And I think that that's important to differentiate, that the Yankees are the best team when they are playing their best. I think that, an A+ Yankees effort, an A+ Yankees team beats an A+ of every other team in the AL. My problem becomes that they have a lower floor. We have seen them where it becomes a, hey man, if this team doesn't hit a 3-run home run, then you're in tough shape. At this point, like, Tampa feels like a team that the Yankees are better than, but Tampa is a tough matchup. They put the ball in play. Their team speed puts a ton of pressure on the Yankees defense, and the Yankees defense is messy and lacks fundamentals at times and throws the ball to the wrong bases and doesn't back people up and has all these other issues. Those are all things that we can yell at Boone about, and that's, his job is to manage. But that puts a lot of pressure on this team from Tampa. That's what makes me worried, is if Tampa, they have good starting pitching, if they go out and they do make the big trade deadline splash, if Tampa got Skubal, then I'm nervous. Then I have a lot of anxiety coming up heading towards the playoffs. But as it stands right now, I I think that the Yankees are the clear favorites in the AL, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think Tampa, based on what they might do at the trade deadline, could end up putting some pressure on them. Obviously, tough week, 2-5. I mentioned it. We take the series against the Tigers, 2 out of 3, get swept by the Red Sox, just brutal in Boston. But I think if you're looking for something good, you look at Carlos Rodon last night. 17 whiffs. Like, that's elite. That's really good. We're getting into Cam Schlittler numbers, right? 15, 16, 17, 18 whiffs. Like, that's awesome. That is peak Rodon. That should give all of us confidence that Rodon's trend line is going up. Like, he's looking better every start. He came out and the command wasn't exactly there. He was walking guys. You walk guys. Then when you do get beat by the home run, which he was, it's a 3-run homer instead of a solo shot. So some of those early numbers legitimately were, he pitched a pretty decent game and then he walked 2 guys and then he got, he gave up 1 big hit. And we have to avoid that. That's not an excuse. It's just trying to understand what it is that we're actually criticizing about the team or about the player. I think Rodon looks good. In the immediate moment right now, I feel like Rodon is our number 3 in the playoffs. It's clearly Cam Schlittler, Max Fried, kind of in a tier of their own. And then after that, I think it's very clearly Rodon and Cole. Cole has just been a little less consistent thus far. That's going to happen coming off of TJ. You look at Rodon, we have the building. There's some momentum there from Rodon, so I feel pretty good about that. This is him last night. This is his start earlier in the week against the Tigers, where he had 14 whiffs. Like, his stuff is there, especially for a guy who, we paid a lot of money to. He came over. His first spring training with the club, they said that he had chronic back issues. He gets hurt for the first half of that season, and nobody has ever brought up those chronic back issues again. So I don't think they're that chronic. Rodon, and he lost a lot of weight between those off seasons. I think he changed his mechanics a little bit. Like, Rodon looks great. I feel super confident in that. I mentioned Seattle's starting pitching depth. I think that they're probably the only other team that can look at your first 3 starting pitchers and even compare with what the Yankees are going to have come the division series, hopefully not the wild card series. Let's talk about the pitching staff, just as a whole. I got here the last 30 days, Yankees starting pitchers. If we look, you see about 5 starts for our primary 5 starters, and then obviously the spot start by Elmer. Elmer hasn't looked great thus far this season. He looks fine. He's a heavy sinker, contact kind of guy. I don't know how well that works with this current iteration of the Yankees, where we don't always have, McMahon's out right now, obviously at third, but we don't always have our most solid defensive team on the field right now because we need offense, because a lot of our big guys are hurt. So I don't feel negative about Elmer, but he hasn't shown me anything that makes me go, oh, wow, this is a prospect who we need to hug, specifically because of how deep the pitching depth organizationally is. You look at what we've done over the last 30 days, 5 starts each for all the starters. You can see it here. Schlittler and Rodon, pretty strong ERAs, 1.93 for Schlitt, 3.29 for Rodon. And then kind of a mixed bag there for Will Warren, a 4.21, and then, Garrett Cole and Weathers have had their struggles. I think that this has been probably the biggest change for the team at this point, that the starting pitching was able to carry the team, even on days where the offense was not particularly good. The starting pitching was able to consistently put us in positions to win late in games, and right now that is not a guarantee every night. You look at just a quality start percentage here. Schlittler only 2 out of his last 5, Rodon only 2 out of his last 5, Weathers only 2 out of his last 5. So when you look at this and we say, what is this, 26 starts here? Yeah, 26 starts. We're talking about 8 quality starts. So there's only 8 times that somebody went 6 innings and had 3 earned runs or fewer. And that's not a perfect stat either, but it does speak to, hey, we've had to tax the bullpen more. Our starters are not getting us to those positions late in games where we've only given up 3 runs or less, and that we have opportunities to win with a good lineup. It hasn't been as dominating. That's going to happen throughout a season, but it's one of those things that we have to just kind of keep an eye on. You look here at what we've seen the last 30 days. I just got it sorted here by strikeout minus walk percentage. Obviously, Schlittler is the best pitcher in the AL right now. Thus far this season, we'll see what Skubal does now that he's back. Ryan Weathers, I'm fairly shocked by seeing this, just under 18% for him. I know that the long ball has really gotten him. I was under the impression that his walk rate was a little more elevated than this. So I guess pleasant surprise at this point. Batting average against still only 237. So for Weathers, it's a fly ball damage problem. His BABIP's only at 250. Like, that's you got to keep that fastball low in the zone, because anytime that it starts to lift is when he starts to have problems. Rodon obviously starting to look good here, 16.8, and that includes a 28 plus percent strikeout rate. That 11.5% walk rate obviously needs to come down. I think that he'll get closer to his baseball card in that regard. Garrett Cole, still, the strikeouts haven't been there as much. We talked about him. And Will Warren has just been kind of weird, man. Like, I don't know what to make of him at this point. He's just been going through it. His last 4 or 5 starts have all been pretty rough. Obviously, he's an incredible 4th or 5th starter. Like, any team in baseball would be happy to have him as their 5th starter. More along the lines of starting to think through what the trade deadline might look like. If we have to include a Will Warren in order to close a major deal, not that it looks like there's going to be a lot of major deals on the table, but if Brian Cashman works some magic and it takes Will Warren to close on something, I don't know if I even want to throw Skubal around. I actually don't really love doing that. If for no other reason, then it would only be a defensive move to keep him away from the Dodgers or the Rays, or I guess in theory another AL team. But if you have to move Warren to make an impact deal happen, I'm starting to look at it and say, man, we've got 3 guys who are signed to a lot of money for the next 3 seasons, and we have young dudes. We have Elmer. We have Will Warren. We have Ryan Weathers under control. We have Schlittler, obviously. Like, the pitching depth is there. We're gonna have Clark Schmidt back next year. There's just going to be, like, this is a game of musical chairs. There's only going to be 5 to 6 or 7 chairs. At this point, I think it's irresponsible not to at least consider moving a couple of these guys, even the MLB ready ones, even the ones who we think are good, if it has the right kind of return. We'll look at the bullpen. Bullpen is kind of a similar story. Again, last 30 days here. You see Bednar has locked it down. He's been nails. I feel really great about Bednar. Doval is one that I don't trust him. I'm sorry. He's outside of my trust tree. Like, I don't feel good about it every time that I watch him. I know that the underlying stuff is there. I know that he's a guy who should be really hard to hit, but it just never makes sense to me why he gets hit as hard as he does. It feels like it's something about his ability to locate. He has not shown that he can really get lefties out. I know Boone will cite that from time to time, that, oh, well, he didn't have trouble with lefties last year. No, he did in San Francisco. He just didn't have trouble with lefties as much for half a season in New York. And we know that relief pitchers are notoriously volatile. So I don't feel great basing it on those, that 2.5 months that he was getting out lefties last year. I'd certainly love it if he started doing it, but I'm not banking on it. Cruz is Cruz. If he's not walking guys, he's dominant. And when he gives up walks, he still has a chance to be dominant because he has the most unhittable pitch in baseball. You go through here, and the rest of it is just it's just kind of sad, in my opinion. Like, Jake Bird is in rough shape, even though these numbers are not terrible. He gets hit around too much. Hedrick's been actually pretty good. I feel good about Hedrick. He's my 3rd guy right now behind Bednar. My pecking order goes Bednar, Cruz, Hedrick, Doval. Yeah, I don't feel good after that top three. And that's where I feel like the bullpen needs are, if we believe that LaGrange can, at a bare minimum, be an effective middle inning bullpen guy in the playoffs, then we need one more dude at the trade deadline. We're good. At that point, we'll have 4 to 5 guys who we can trust in the playoffs, and I'm okay going into it that way. If the Yankees are not extremely confident that LaGrange will at least have a role in the Yankees bullpen in the playoffs, then we need 2 guys for this. I think that we have to have 5 dudes that we trust, and at least, I'll say 3 that we feel real strong about. And in the current moment, we have 1, and that's Bednar. Cruz is iffy. You feel great about him when he's great, but you know that things can get off the rails really quick. And everybody else is just kind of a role guy. I mean, Hedrick's been good this year. Hedrick is the guy who elevates through the pen. I don't believe in Paul Blackburn. I know the Yankees want me to, and I just don't. I watch him pitch, and I go, nice changeup, dude. I still don't I just don't think that he's going to be that he's the Luke Weaver guy who rises through the bullpen. I don't see it. I've been frustrated with Yarby, but to me, Blackburn, Yarby, Tim Hill are like 3 circles making the weirdest Venn diagram that you've ever seen. It's Blackburn and Yarborough are the bulky long guys who pitch 5 up, 5 down, right? And then Tim Hill is our lefty specialist, but Yarborough could also function as a lefty specialist. So there's just 3 guys there for 2 roles, and I don't know what we're getting out of it. When, Yeri was throwing the ball really, really well in AAA, his June stats were nuts, I remember. But we saw Giovanni Cruz come up and have some success. When he was with the big club, there are guys playing well in AAA who I would rather see get some opportunity here. And yeah, Yeri has only thrown, he's had 2 outings here for only 1 1/3 since he's been, or he's only had the 1 outing since he's been back up. This is the last 30 days. That's why there's 2 of them there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it with, with Blackburn. If you really believe Blackburn's going to be good, then I guess you can make the argument that they only need 1 more real bullpen guy, but I'm not feeling great about that. The starting pitching, I think, is just, they're coming along. I actually had, let me pull it up here. So I went and I pulled WAR for the entire league, just divided it by innings pitched, just to get kind of an efficiency stat, because WAR is a volume stat. Just by showing up and throwing innings, you're going to accumulate WAR from a volume perspective. And I wanted to see what it was on a per inning basis. We're looking for like true effectiveness. Obviously, Cam Schlittler blowing up here, 3rd in baseball, I think only behind Mizorowski and maybe somebody else. And I did filter here. Starting pitchers, 5 games started with 5 innings pitched. So just trying to get as many openers out of this as I could. You look, Max Fried 12th in baseball in terms of how efficient he is at earning WAR. I don't know what we want to call this yet. Rodon was 49th before last night. I'd venture to say that it's probably much stronger today. Will Warren 57th, Ryan Weathers 89th, Garrett Cole 111th. And again, these are rate statistics. These are trying to see what are we seeing from an effectiveness standpoint, because you can't compare, Garrett Cole's 5 starts to Mizorowski's 15 or whatever. But just something that I thought was interesting, that when I was going through it, thought that was pretty indicative to what our eyeballs are seeing with the starting pitching staff right now, that Rodon is trending up and getting really strong. Schlittler and Fried are 2 of the top 10 to 15 pitchers in the game. And Warren is kind of up or down. Weathers doesn't feel super real to me, even when he had like 3 or 4 of those starts there. He went 8 innings and struck out a bunch of dudes. Never really felt that great. I hope that he ends up being an impact reliever for us. But this one I thought was interesting. I thought it was a cool way to look at it. I had never seen that before, looking at WAR from like a per inning pitched standpoint. So I thought it was relevant to the conversation going forward about, hey man, by that metric, 3 top 50 starters. And I'll bet again, Rodon is even higher than that now. Let's see Garrett Cole kind of start climbing those rankings. I'm going to check it out a little bit further, see if that might be a good way to keep looking at these. Let's talk about the lineup here. I think that there's a lot of discussion, obviously, about what's needed at the trade deadline, about offensively, what is going to lengthen this lineup. I think that's everybody's intention. Everyone believes that we're going to get there a little bit differently, whether that's, right-handed catcher is the one that is the most prominent, but obviously if there's another right-handed platoon outfielder, or if there's possibly an offensive upgrade amongst the infield, like those are all things that it is reasonable to be looking for out of the Yankees trade deadline. I think that we should do a quick review here of just on the season what this team looks like across righties versus lefties. So looking at this, I just got the full season versus righties up here, and you look, no surprise, Ben Rice at the top, Judge still second. Incredible that for the injury that he was playing with the fact that he didn't look at all like himself, he's still at a 145 WRC plus versus righties, and I believe like a 160-ish versus lefties. Rosario has been a demon this year versus righties. Don't know how long that's going to last, but I mean, 57 plate appearances here is enough of a sample size to say, man, he's having a good year versus righties. I mean, that BABIP is crazy at 343, but we'll see where that lands. Cody Bellinger, expected. Volpe, 75 at bats. Again, not a Volpe guy, but credit where credit's due. You see the 116 WRC plus here, the 339 WOBA. I would proceed with caution because that 378 BABIP it's not realistic. It's not who he's ever been as a hitter. Usually BABIP is on average between 290 and 300 in any given season. That's batting average on balls in play if you're unaware. So anytime that he makes contact, how often is that a hit? Just removing strikeouts essentially from batting average. And it's almost always 290 to 300. There's guys who excel in that, right? Luis Arraez, but for the most part, it kind of settles back into there. So I'd be curious to see what Volpe looks like in a month, but his numbers versus righties have been good. And I am specifically saying versus righties because we're going to look at some lefty splits here in a minute and bust some more narratives. So Grisham obviously has been really good versus righties and versus lefties. Jazz, after a terrible start to the season, has now gotten back to playing great defense, being real productive off righties. Caballero has slipped a little bit. He's back down around kind of where his career was, right around that 95-100 territory. From a WRC plus perspective, a 690 OPS. Obviously, you keep going here versus righties. We got some guys struggling, right? Ryan McMahon, not looking great. Goldie struggled versus righties. Wells is terrible. Dominguez is still getting there. I mean, Dominguez has had success at the major league level off righties. I'm not really that worried about it. I'm much happier to see how well he is playing versus lefties. But when I look at this team, I go, well, wait a minute. What are we doing at catcher versus right-handed pitchers? You go out and you get Ryan Jeffers to air quotes platoon, then are we still going to keep throwing, 66 WRC plus Austin Wells back there, 579 OPS versus righties? This is removing his lefty splits, which are legitimately some of the worst that I've ever seen. And it's not a small sample size, right? 126 plate appearances. Like, that is just where we're at on the season with the guys who occupy the bottom half of the lineup, with Ryan McMahon, with Wells, Dominguez has been hitting actually pretty high in the lineup, but I guess really what we're talking about here is McMahon, Wells, to a certain extent, Volpe, Caballero. Like, I want to see a little bit more consistency, I guess, in the bottom of the lineup versus righties. It's very common that we would see a 7-8-9 of McMahon, Volpe, Wells, and that's not getting the job done here. McMahon's been actually a little bit better over the last 30 days before he got the ear infection, but let's take a look at the lefty splits here and compare them. Goldschmidt obviously has been tearing up lefties. He can't stay in this territory of 521 WOBA, 241 WRC plus, but I think that there's a few nuggets here, and there's a lot of small sample sizes just because there's fewer lefties. But when you look, obviously Bellinger, last year was the best lefty hitter in the game. Judge was still tearing up lefties before he went out. You look at two small sample size guys here, and Schumann and Ali Sanchez. I don't think that those numbers are going to stick, but hell, for 15 plate appearances, Ali Sanchez gave us way more than we were getting out of Wells or Ascara, even though Ascara off lefties actually is a positive contributor here by WRC plus. When you look through the lefty starting lineup, Grisham has still been beating up on lefties. Bellinger still beats up on lefties. Goldschmidt is a tank versus lefties. Judge will be back by the playoffs versus lefties. Caballero hits lefties well. Dominguez is showing us that he could be a factor if we need him to be. I think all of us are hoping that he's not. We don't really want him in that position where we feel like we have to start him versus lefties because somebody else can't. In a world where Bellinger and Trent are both hitting lefties well, there's no reason for Dominguez to have to platoon like that, but it's nice to know that he's showing us some signs on a small sample size that he can. And then you get to Volpe here versus lefties, 54 plate appearances, only a 90 WRC plus. This one, the BABIP is not carrying him. It's a 278. It's a much more normal number. But he does have a 669 OPS, which is also right around his career numbers. Here, obviously, Rosario has a whole career of hitting lefties, so I feel like even though it's 86 plate appearances and he's kind of struggled this year versus lefties, I don't hesitate to continue to put him in those spots until maybe in like a month or something, where at that stage it might be worth reconsidering. And then Jazz, awful versus lefties this year. McMahon, awful versus lefties this year. Austin Wells, literally, but I don't know. I guess I didn't know that you could go negative in WRC plus. I know that you can go negative in WAR, but I don't understand how there's a metric here saying that if you or I stepped into the box, that we might be more productive than Wells. I don't understand that, but it can't be good. Like, even if that's a flawed way to look at this, it doesn't mean anything good has been happening. But when you go through off of lefties, like, we have guys who are kind of showing a little bit. I think that I get that it's only 24 plate appearances for Schumann, but I think that he's earned the right to get some at-bats versus lefties. And now we have to do the Anthony Volpe thing. I'm sorry. I don't really want to be doing this right now. But we have to acknowledge what is going on with Anthony. So on Volpe's career, he has hit lefties a little bit better than righties, as one would expect. These are Volpe's career splits versus lefties and righties. He is a 644 OPS versus righties in his career and a 720 OPS versus lefties, which is still not very strong. 720 is getting closer to league average, or getting around league average. I believe that league average is right around like 710. So he's not like a lefty demon. He's not a guy who is a person who, for example, plays every single day versus lefties. I don't think he's that kind of guy. Rosario has a career that would lead you to believe that he should be in the lineup every single time that we face a lefty. Paul Goldschmidt has a career and has the results that would make you think every single time that we face a lefty, he should be in the lineup. So let's just, as a means of comparison for this season, obviously we saw Volpe's numbers. These are going to be the same for him, but I went ahead and I just pulled the Yankees splits versus righties versus lefties since May 13th, when Volpe got recalled to the majors. And if you look here, this is versus righties. You can see that Anthony Volpe still that 116 WRC plus, right? Still okay, solid. His walk rate is up at 16%, career high, so much higher than what it has been previously. And the Yankees, Booney keeps citing that as, him having him getting on base, everything. Like, you can't deny the numbers. He has a 350 something on base percentage. But when we come back through here, and obviously you see versus righties that the team has been kind of mixed, right? Rosario's still a demon, Rice great since May 13th. We on the screen there, I never called it out, but we have the WRC plus for the last 30 days. So you can see where everybody has been neutral split. But here, with some of these other guys versus righties, Bellinger has been really good. Spencer Jones has been solid. McMahon has played much better of recently. This is probably going back a little bit further than what would help him. But a couple of guys who are really struggling here versus righties in the immediate moment. When we go to lefties, obviously Goldschmidt's still tearing it up. Schumann, these 15 plate appearances where he still has a 1. OPS since May 13th versus lefties. So you would think that, what happened? Caballero got hurt. Volpe got called up. They said Volpe played so well in that first week where he had a bunch of those walks that he had earned the right to already stay, to continue starting at shortstop almost every day. And I don't understand how Schumann has not earned the right to more at-bats. I'm not going to die on the hill that Max Schumann is the guy to help us out versus lefties or to save us. But what I'm saying is, if we want to pretend like this team, opportunities are given based on merit and based on results, Volpe has not been very good versus lefties this year, which is the reason that he's here. And Schumann hasn't gotten any chances versus lefties. That feels crazy to me. They were hesitant for Ollie Sanchez, too, when Boone was pushing back on, you have a right-handed catcher in AAA who isn't tearing the world up, but he has an average-ish OPS, and Wells is doing nothing. So we finally got Sanchez up, and he's come through for us versus lefties a few different times now. So seeing Schumann not get these opportunities is kind of frustrating once you dig a little bit deeper. You can go through every batting order that the team has had this season, and you can highlight any players, and you can toggle left and right. So if we come here and we look, we see Volpe gets called up May 13th. Anything highlighted there is Volpe being in the lineup. Remove all of the starts versus right-handed starters. And we come back down here to, May 12th, Volpe not on the team. May 13th he is. So beginning on May 18th was the first time that they faced a lefty starting pitcher. And if you look, every single lefty starting pitcher that we have faced since Volpe was called up, he has been in the starting lineup against. The one that you see there where he's not was a left-handed opener with a right-handed follower against the White Sox. He plays 100% of games versus lefty starters. And I understand that his career numbers are a little bit better versus lefties, but indulge me here for a moment, because if we look at his starts versus righties here, and I'll zoom it out a little bit so you can kind of see the scope, it feels like it's every day. It's actually 2/3. So when Boone says, hey, actually, Volpe and Caballero are going to flip back and forth at shortstop, and I'm going to use both guys, and it's going to be a split between them. When one guy starts 100% versus lefties and 2/3 of the time versus righties, he's not a platoon bat. He's an everyday player, a nearly everyday player. And, our eyes are not lying to us about the defense. He clearly does not have a very strong arm. He doesn't have a great transition at second on double plays. And you can forgive those things of a shortstop when they are an offensive contributor, which he just hasn't been. It's just not who he's been. It hasn't been there for him for a minute now. And I hate doing this. I want to talk about so many things on this team, but it drives me crazy the way that the team refuses to just acknowledge, like, if they came out and said, hey, we know the numbers aren't good, but we believe in him, so suck it up and we're going to keep doing it, I would have infinitely more respect for what's happening, and I would let it go. But the people who are critical of Volpe are not wrong. Like, you come through and you look, his Baseball Savant page is not the most pretty. It's actually better than other years, though. And even down to the stuff that does look really good, right? Like the arm strength looks terrible, but his walk rate at 14%, cool. His chase rate being at 24%, we'll call it, 23.8. Like, those are things that you would normally say, oh, that's pretty good, right? And then, like, let's just look. I have it sorted here by year. In 2026, he's seeing fewer pitches in the zone than ever before. Like, in his career, he used to, last year he got 52.8% of pitches in the zone. The year before that, 52% of pitches in the zone. This is using ABS. And you look, and this year it's 47.7. He's getting 5% fewer pitches in the zone. In baseball, that's huge. That is going to shift your numbers. And then the counter argument becomes, well, he's not swinging at those pitches because his chase rate is, whatever it is. And I present to you the breakdown of his swings based on where the pitch was in the zone. And in 2026, it is correct that his chase rate is, about 0.8% lower than it was last year in 2025. And prior to that, it was, 22.7 the year before. And that now it is a little bit lower. But when you look over here and you see, oh, his chase rate is down because he's actually chasing waste pitches, which are significantly worse at a much higher rate. Like, he's seeing more waste pitches than ever, and he's swinging at them more than ever. Like, even the narrative around, well, he's having these more mature at-bats, and, well, he's working these walks. No, he's not. I don't know what else to say. It's just not a correct statement. Like, he is swinging at worse pitches. You look at it, he is swinging more at pitches in the heart of the zone. I love to see it. Up to 71.7 from 68.5 last year. Like, credit where credit is due on some of these. He's swinging less at pitches in the shadow, and he's making contact with them more. I'll take it, despite seeing far fewer of them, which also might have some effectiveness here, some impact, I should say. But, like, even the chase, it's barely down from last year, despite everything else. And his contact isn't there either on those pitches. So it's not even like he's fouling them off. He's not grinding out long at bats, doing the Bellinger thing with 2 strikes. Like, it's just not there. Like, you go through, and this is the part that kind of gets me, is I just want a reason to believe, and I don't have one right now, other than what the scouting report out of high school said, and if you want to be generous, what the scouting report out of AA said. You look here, and you even look at, like, his bat tracking. He's, like, there's not much different going on. Like, you come through his, where he's standing in the box is about the same. He has gotten 2 inches closer to the plate, which I think is something that he needs. If you've watched him the last few years, everything on the outer half of the plate he thinks is a ball. He has argued with umpires numerous times on pitches that are, like, middle away, that he acts like they're in the other batter's box, which, ironically enough, if it was in the other batter's box, he'd probably swing at it, given the numbers that we have here about the waist zone. Like, it's just, I don't, like, the 2 inches closer is cool, whatever, but, like, he's not changing his stance. His stance angle's the same as last year. Like, this is the same guy that we saw last year. Everyone acknowledges that he will make some good defensive plays. Everyone acknowledges that he will have, a couple of weeks where he does slap singles, and we all get kind of excited about it and go, oh, wait a minute, is he a guy who, can get on base and hit singles and at the bottom of the order? And every time we've ended up now 3 consecutive seasons, this will be the 4th, of I should say this is the third consecutive season, because in 2023, we all gave him a lot of rope. I don't remember anyone complaining about Volpe until the end of 2024, when he had a terrible summer. He couldn't hit. And in that playoffs, he actually played fairly well. But last year was atrocious, offensively and defensively. This year, the underlying metrics look the same. And just as a means of comparison, like, you see what Goldschmidt's been doing this year, playing so much more consistently. And just as a means of comparison, right, he's nearly, 5.5 inches changed where he's lining up in the box, where he's closer to in the box. He changed his stance angle. Like, you can go through a lot of players who are either struggling or not putting up the results that they want, and you can dig in and find these little changes. And with Volpe, it's one of those, like, you know, because the team denies that anything has been wrong for the last 3 or 4 years, I don't believe that they're changing anything. Like, this feels like the definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting new results. It is just very, very frustrating to see here, when there is a guy, I will remind you, on the team who throughout the season, but specifically since Volpe has been called up, has done more against lefties. And I understand it's a 200 average for him, like, but it's worth seeing what we have. I know what Anthony is. I know that I'm going to pull up his baseball savant and I'm going to see, you know, a 21st percentile arm strength. There's no widely accepted metric for middle infielders on, like, a double play turn. I was hoping that there would be, that we were at that point in 2026 where we had the equivalent of catcher pop time for second baseman. There's nothing publicly available, but you just look at it and you watch it and you can see he is slow. He has to take a step towards first and step into the throw on double plays. The other night, the one that he flipped to Caballero, where Caballero just gave it a quick flip, like, it was such a different turn that you were able to see kind of the difference between those two guys. And it's one of those things where, as of right now, they don't have another real option other than maybe Oswaldo. They could have Schumann. Like, more than anything, Caballero should be playing shortstop and Volpe should be on the bench versus lefties, because then that allows us to have an actual outfielder in the outfield. That allows us to have, like, you know, real outfielders and not an outfield made up of 2 infielders and Cody Bellinger. It's just like they had last night. I'm referencing where we had Schumann and Caballero, Schumann and Rosario in the outfield actually last night after Jazz got booted. It's just crazy, man. Like, it's crazy that we're doing this. That he starts almost every game. Like, this is every game since he's been back. Every game since he's been back. He's played in over 85% of them. Like, I think it's 35 of 39 maybe, or something right in that ballpark. And a lot of these he got into after. He didn't start, but he ends up somehow in the game. It's just, I really hate doing this. I'd rather be digging into interesting stuff rather than trying to disprove why the organization that I've loved since I was 6 years old continues to lie for this kid. Let's get into this week and take a look ahead. Last week was a tough week of Yankee baseball. Anthony Volpe makes my blood boil sometimes, but this is a good baseball team. Like, this is a really good baseball team. I know that it's a very similar team to last year, but with the progression of, you know, Schlittler at the end of last year, but obviously now with the like Garrett Cole being back, hopefully maybe a better version of Carlos Rodon, but Ben Rice taking a big step forward, Caballero getting into the lineup and doing some of those little intangible things that help us win. Grisham looking really good again. I think that this team is better than last year's team. I think that they have less critical flaws. At the trade deadline, I think it's really, we need the bullpen. Bullpen needs to be fixed. The lineup, I would love to see more depth. I just don't have my hopes up for it. But this week, we got the AL Central. We got a three-game series with the Tigers again, and then we got a three-game off on Thursday, three-game series Friday, Saturday, Sunday against the Twins. You look, we got Casey Mize versus Ryan Weathers. Ryan Weathers facing the Tigers again after he faced them last week. You look here from June 24th, he dual Skubal for 6 innings, only 10 whiffs. It wasn't the prettiest start for him, but he kept us in the game. He gave us a chance to get that Dominguez 2-run home run, come back and win this game. You look, and Ryan Weathers 10 hard hits in this, but 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts. A game where he was not dominant. He didn't have, it wasn't a 10-11K game. It wasn't one where nobody hit him hard. He battled through some adversity. And like I said, it wasn't pretty, but we will take it then. Hopefully he goes on to play well in Monday's game. I know that by the time a lot of you seeing this will see it, that Monday's game will have passed, so I won't focus on it too long. Casey Mize, good chunk of plate appearances here versus current Yankees, and pretty good WOBA, 284 with an xWOBA of 280, so the results have been good. Average exit velo is 86.8. That's a tough look for the Yankees lineup. You look at Weathers, this counts the start last week, obviously. Over 40 plate appearances, 27.5 K rate, 5% walk rate, 189 batting average against, and a 209 WOBA. Those are extremely good numbers, but the underlying is not as pretty. Expected batting average is up at 296. The expected WOBA is up at 346. Neither of those numbers are good at all. Exit velo, 91.5. It's just, hopefully we see Weathers from last week. Maybe that this is some younger career stuff and could be across a few different years, teams, leagues, but we still feel okay with Weathers. We have Weathers, Schlittler, Warren going in this series. The Yankees have not announced who we're going to see in the Twins series. I think you can safely assume Cole and Rodon, barring injury, and then beyond that, who knows? It might be Weathers. Maybe at that point, with the days off, does that line up for Schlittler? Maybe if they just want to stop the bleeding, like if this Tiger series does not go well, maybe we line up Cam on. He'll have 5 days rest on Sunday, I believe. So we'll see where that goes. The Yankees never announce their starting pitchers far enough in advance. I hate that they do this. But we're seeing Skubal again on Tuesday. We'll look at his numbers here. Obviously his numbers are incredible against everyone. What's the point, right? The underlying is incredible, the actual WOBA is incredible, 30% strikeout rate, a 3.5% walk rate. Like, he's incredible. Hopefully we catch him on an off night again like last week. Schlittler, 16 plate appearances here, 25% strikeout rate, 6.3% walk rate. I'm gonna assume a lot of those occurred last year, just because of that walk rate. Schlittler has been so good at drawing swing and miss. It actually bothers me that people keep saying that he's throwing more strikes. It's not. It's that his swing and miss is up so much that he's getting far more chase and getting far more swings in the shadow of the zone. That's why his strike rate is up so much. His zone rate's actually down a little bit, but you don't have to throw it in the zone when you don't give people enough time to react, and that's how you get swings and misses. Schlittler, just incredible actual numbers here, 200 average against a 281 WOBA. The underlying does not look pretty. I don't care. Doesn't bother me one bit. Schlittler has been the best pitcher in the AL this year because Skubal hasn't been there. It'll be fun to see what these two guys do going down the road the rest of the season. Tuesday night's going to be really fun, getting to see, the only two pitchers who are really each other's equals right now. And I know that that's early for Schlittler. Obviously, he needs to actually put together a real body of work. But in the year-long sample size, I think he got called up early July last year. Like, he's done nothing but impress. And every single time he continues to improve and continues to develop, he has that upward linear trend of, it feels like every time out there you can see him building on stuff and just improving as a player. He looks like a better pitcher today than he did in April. He looked like a much better pitcher in April than he did at the end of the regular season last year. Obviously, that start against the Red Sox notwithstanding. And then the third game of the series, Will Warren and Troy Melton. Troy Melton only 6 plate appearances, no real sample size there. Will Warren, same thing, only 12 plate appearances. No hits given up, though. I think that's kind of interesting, right? No hits given up. A WOBA is 0.58, so I'm assuming, 8.3% walks on 12 plate appearances. What's that? Is that 1 walk? So it's not a lot to base us off here, but looking at this series, I think that we comfortably take 2 out of 3 in this. We're right back on track. That's where we are with this Yankees team. We know that it's a long baseball season. I don't want to be an irrational Yankees fan. I know that June has not gone well for us in the past. July has not gone well for us either, or August. I am not letting go of this team has problems in the summer, but I'm not gonna freak out over a 5-2 stretch right now. A 2-5 stretch, I should say. If we go 2-5 again this week and we end up, 4 out of our last 14, now I'm starting to worry. But I think we'll see what Weathers does tonight. But tomorrow with Schlittler, he's our stopper. I don't care that we're facing another ace. He gives us the best chance to win every time that he is on the mound. And then I think that this Yankees team is just, I really do think that they are better than everyone in the AL. The Tampa just kind of has our number. Tampa has they have the right counter moves to our moves, and our bullpen, our defense, and the bottom of our lineup needs to improve for us to hold on to that. You look ahead to July here, you see after that Twins series, we got 4 games with the Rays down at the Trop. That's going to be a big one. I looked it up last night. Yankees' largest lead in the division this year has only been 3 games. I think that there's a good opportunity there for head-to-heads to put some space between us and the team that at this stage I think you're justified in fearing the most. So we'll see where that goes heading into the All-Star game, and then 3 games with the Nats. The back half is very National League heavy. For the back half of July, we come out of the All-Star break with 3 games against the Dodgers, 3 games against the Pirates at home. I mean, decent little homestand there. The Pirates have had a solid year. Not sure if we'll see Skeens or not. I would assume that Skeens is probably throwing the first game after the All-Star break for Pittsburgh. Or maybe not if he throws in the All-Star game. Who knows? We might line up with him. We might not. But then a big road trip with the Phillies, both Chicago teams, to close out the month going into the trade deadline rather, in Chicago. So we're looking at there's not going to be as many head-to-head opportunities for a while after that Rays series. After that Rays series, the next time that we face a divisional opponent would be the Blue Jays on August 14th. So we got, and a lot of divisional games to end the year. Weeks of divisional games here with the Blue Jays, the Orioles, the Astros who are in wildcard contention, then the Red Sox. Like, August is going to be a big one for us. So I'd love to see early July go well, put some space between us and the Rays, and then we can go from there. And that's it. That's been This Week in Pinstripes. We're going to do this on Mondays, where we're going to go back through everything from the prior week, do a quick look ahead to the upcoming week. Later this week, I'll have a shorter form video out for grading the first half of the 2026 Yankees player by player. I think that'll be fun. If you've been here this long, go ahead and subscribe. We're doing this every Monday, like I said. I appreciate you being here. Let's go Yanks. Talk to you next week.